Hey Dovii family, welcome back to Global Trek Tales. Today we are diving into a video from the infographic show which is titled How Big is the US Really? So we would be reacting to this video. This video promises some surprising facts. So let's find out what they are. A while back, I had made a reaction video on the United States. It was titled United States Travel Hacks Everyone Needs to Know. So if you have not watched it, please go grab a watch. I will leave a link in the description below. And if by any chance you happen to be traveling to the United States, I would personally advise you to check out Expedia. They have some awesome deals on hotels and on flights to suit every travel budget you are on. So I will leave a link of Expedia in the description too. Now without any further ado, let's get into this video which is titled How Big is the United States Really? 3, 2, 1 and go.
States is currently the world's sole superpower with military installations around the world. As a country, its geography spans from subtropical forests to rolling plains, scorching deserts, and Arctic wastes. But just how big is the U.S. really in comparison to the rest of the world? Hello and welcome to another episode of the Infographic Show. Today, we're taking a look at how big the U.S. really is.
The U.S. is a land of contrast, that's for sure.
5,680,000 square miles, with terrain that varies dramatically. Only Russia
tropical
at
forests, deserts, they have it all.
And Canada at 6,205,000 square miles are larger than the U.S. Its three biggest states, Alaska at 663,000 square miles, Texas at 270,000 square miles, and California at 160,000 square miles, combined would be the 17th largest nation in the world, immediately after Sudan at 1.15 million square miles, and right before Libya at 1 million square miles. In total, the U.S. is larger than the 107 smallest countries in the world combined.
The U.S. is massive.
327 million people. The United States is also the third most populated nation on Earth, having a total of 4.28% of the total world population, with a net yearly migration rate of approximately 900,000 people. The U.S. is by far the one place the rest of the world wants to live, with Germany coming in second at 350,000 migrants, and Turkey in third with 325,000 migrants. In the U.S., 83% of the population lives in cities, with its three most populated cities being New York City,
the most popular destination
5 million people,
for migrants,
Los Angeles with 4 million people, and Chicago with 2.7 million people. All combined, the population of the U.S.'s three biggest cities is equal to the population of Chad with 14.5 million people. Just these three cities alone are
a very city-centric country
with 11.5 million people,
83% urban population,
people, and Greece with 11.2 million people. When counting the greater metropolitan area, New York City is the 10th largest
three
city
biggest
in the
cities
world,
equivalent
with
to
a total
Chad,
population of 18.6 million people, just behind Cairo with 18.8 million people, and just ahead of Dhaka with 17.6 million people. This would make the greater New York City area the 63rd largest country in the world, just ahead of Syria with 18 million people. The U.S. is the world's largest economy with a gross domestic product of $20.4 trillion, or 23.3% of
for
the total
those
global
who do not
economy.
know,
China is
even in
just
India,
behind
the
the
state
US
of
at
Uttar
$14
Pradesh,
trillion
if it has
and
to be made into a country,
16.1% of the total
it would
global
be
economy.
the
When measured
fourth
by purchasing
most
power
populated
parity,
country in the world.
the price of goods
That's
and
how
services versus
one state
individual
of
incomes,
India is
the U.S.
populated.
comes at number 2 to China, whose GDP PPP is $25.2 trillion. This means that while the Chinese economy is about 30% smaller than the U.S.'s, Chinese individuals have on average 20% greater purchasing power in their own country. The three biggest economies within the U.S. states are California with a GDP of $2.6 trillion, Texas with a GDP of $1.6 trillion, and New York with a GDP of 1.5 trillion. Altogether, these three states would be the world's third largest economy, just ahead of Japan with a GDP of $5 trillion. California's economy alone is as big as the United Kingdom.
These states have economies bigger than some major countries.
United States also
California.
has the best equipped military in the
Dreaming
world,
anyone?
though it's only the third largest at 1,282,000 active duty personnel. Ahead of it are India with 1.4 million active duty personnel and China with 2.1 million active duty personnel. The US spends over $610 billion on its military every year, or 3.1% of its total GDP, 35% of the world's total military expenditure, and more than the next 9 nations combined. Just behind it are China with $150 billion in expenditures and Saudi Arabia with $76 billion in expenditures.
So much
States
for
also
warfare.
has the most military bases in the most foreign countries in the world, with approximately 800 military.
But then that's what makes you a
installations in
superpower.
countries. Possibly more military bases in more foreign lands than any nation or empire in history.
Ooh.
The cost of maintaining these bases alone is about $156 billion, more than China spends on its entire military. On the civilian side, the U.S. has the world's third largest police force, with 913,000 total police officers,
So
placing it just
that's
behind
where-
India at number 1 with
That's why they have a
1.9
big
million police
military budget.
officers, and China with 1.6 million police officers. In the realm of healthcare, the U.S. is the most expensive nation on earth, with a health expenditure
It's a
per
large and
capita of
complex country with
$10,350,
diverse
placing
accents
it ahead
too.
of Switzerland
You
at
can definitely
$7,900,
travel the US and experience different cultures all within one
on
country.
average, the rest of the world spends about 10.3% of its GDP on healthcare. The U.S. spends 18% of its GDP on healthcare.
Healthcare is
The United
expensive.
States is a large, complex nation. Big
I
enough
don't
to
think
host
so.
several different
Healthcare should be
distinct accents
expensive
within
for
its own
anyone.
borders. Its people are
Because
hardworking and industrious, leading the world's
people
economy.
deserve
But
good
despite
healthcare.
what recent political events might indicate, they're also the most welcoming nation in the world, with 3
There
times
you
the
go.
number of immigrants than nations in either the number 2 or number 3 spot in a global comparison. The U.S. isn't the only welcoming place in the world.
It has a long history of immigrations, the US, and that's a big part of basically the United States identity as well. So that's it. Alright, now the United States has the third largest military in the world. But guess what? It has the highest military spending. Now that's a complex topic. What do you think, Dovii family? Comment below, let me know. And they also have the largest, or rather the most military bases around the world held by any country. So the US definitely has a strong global military presence. And it is also the world's largest economy, no surprise there, because they definitely have a major global presence when it comes to economics. The US is definitely a very big market and a huge economy. But here is what that surprises me the most. When it comes to purchasing power parity, they rank second to China, which means that the Chinese have more buying power within their country than the Americans. Interesting, isn't it? Alright, Dovii family, that was a fascinating look at the sheer size and influence of the United States. Now, there were some surprising stats in there. What surprised you the most? I'd like to know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to the channel to get more Global Trek Tales reactions. And hit that notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Until next time, stay curious, stay awesome, and keep exploring the world.